Mr. Secretary, is it 12 o'clock yet?
Yes, we can begin.
Okay, great. Aloha, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting of the Reapportionment Commission to order. Mr. Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Chair Muguishi,
Here.
Commissioner Chip Chase. Excused. Commissioner Chun.
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy. Right. You seem to be muted.
Yeah, sorry.
Commissioner Nakota.
Muted too. So
Commissioner Nishimura.
Present.
Commissioner Nonaka.
Present.
Commissioner Ono.
here.
Commissioner Rathbun. Excused. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thanks, Scott.
It looks like Kevin is here. I see him on the screen.
Okay, Commissioner Rathbun.
Yes.
Okay. So Chair, you do have a quorum.
Thank you, mahalo. So pursuant to the governor's 19th emergency proclamation, the Reapportionment Commission will be meeting remotely using video and audio technology. So thanks very much. Bear with us. Everyone be patient because we're going to be trying to go electronically in and out. So it'll be challenging, but we'll do it right. All right. So this meeting, because we're doing it remotely, it'll be digital, it'll be recorded, and that will be the official record. So there's no question about anything. And we will post the video to the Office of Elections website. And that is elections.hawaii.gov shortly after the conclusion of the meeting. So you can always refer back to the meeting itself. So now, as a reminder to the members of the public who are observing or who might testify, your microphone is muted and your video is disabled. When we get into the testifying section, the secretary will call you when you're recognized to testify. And then you can unmute yourself and speak, and your video will be turned on if you wish. So with that, we're going to move on to public testimony. So as I mentioned before, we're doing this digitally. Everybody be a little patient. Technical issues might arise. And so we'll give each testifier a chance to resolve any connection issues they might have. But if you can't resolve the issues, then we'll have to just move on. So if you would like to testify, click your raise hand button and you will be recognized by the secretary. If you're joining us by phone, please press *9. That's the way you can be recognized. When you are recognized, unmute your microphone, go ahead and speak. You may also turn on your video if you're on video. And for the record, please state your first and last name and the items that you're going to be testifying on. So for those of you who are testifying by phone, we actually cannot see your name. So the secretary will identify you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. So, please be paying attention to whether or not you hear those numbers. So right now, I'm going to ask the secretary to call out the testifiers, beginning with the first one. So, Mr. Secretary.
So the first testifier is Sandy Ma of Common Cause Hawaii.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I have started my video, but it is not appearing on screen, which is fine. My name is Sandy Ma, and I'm with Common Cause Hawaii. Also present with me today is Caroline Kunitaki, Program and Engagement Manager for Common Cause Hawaii. We look forward to working with the Reapportionment Commission and the advisory councils. We respectfully ask that the Reapportionment Commission and the advisory councils follow the Sunshine Law. We noticed some issues with the Sunshine Law and following the Sunshine Law by the Reapportionment Commission with the first meeting on April 13th. Also, with regard to today's agenda, May 17th, we are concerned with executive sessions notice on the agenda. We asked going forward that the public's time for the executive agenda be respected and the executive sessions be moved towards the end of the agenda, as there is no time set for returning to the regular agenda meeting, that all executive sessions be moved towards the end. Also, we are unclear as to why these executive session items are placed in executive session for today's meeting. For example, for the hiring of additional staff, the number and positions being hired should be public information. We note that the board packet materials that were sent out today do indicate the number and positions being hired. They should be indicated on the agenda as well to be clear for the public. We also are concerned that the delivery of census data is being discussed in executive session and not in the public session. This information is especially critical to the public watching and attending these meetings. So we ask that it be noted for the record that Common Cause Hawaii objects to this discussion being held in executive session. Finally, we ask that permitted interaction groups that are to be formed in this meeting not be used as a shield to prevent public participation in the reapportionment process. We ask that the public be allowed to participate in the PIGs, given the impact and importance of the Reapportionment Commission. Thank you very much for allowing these public comments, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Sandy. Appreciate your concerns. I'll just share, this is my first meeting as the chair, and I will just say that for those of people who know me and for those who don't, I can assure you, my goal is to be as transparent as is feasible in these proceedings. That's the kind of person I am. I believe the public does have the right to know things that are appropriate. And unfortunately, a couple of the issues that you discussed that are going into executive session deal with personnel hirings and resumes and things like that. And that's why that's an executive session. And the other issue around census data is a conversation with our attorney under privilege. And therefore that also has to be an executive session. We will certainly be reporting back the findings and reports out of that. And whenever possible, we will have discussions in open session. Do any of the other commissioners want to make a comment about that before we move on to the next testifier? Okay, if not, Mr. Secretary, again, Sandy, thank you for your concerns and for your questions. Mr. Secretary, can you call the next testifier, please?
Before we do that, I just want to note that Commissioner Chip Chase has joined the meeting.
Hello.
Our next testifier is Mr. Bart Dane.
Aloha. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I look forward to this cycle going forward. My concerns are mostly dealing with similar concerns that Sandy Ma expressed on behalf of Common Cause. My experience of observing the 2011-2012 reapportionment cycle was that a lot of the major deliberations and discussions took place behind closed doors in executive session. And to the extent that they were reported out, it was very sketchy and it was very difficult to get a sense of which commissioners had what concerns. So those of us who were trying to fashion testimony to address concerns and questions before the commission were at a great disadvantage. In addition, because a lot of the discussion did take place behind closed doors in executive session, I felt that there was a hesitancy from commissioners to share what was discussed. So for this cycle, and I appreciate the chair's remarks about transparency, but can I get clarification on whether the intention is to interpret the exceptions to the Sunshine Law in a narrow sense or in a broad sense? Because I believe they were interpreted very broadly last time, that if an attorney was present, then it seemed like for a debate discussion, then all that information was treated as though it was confidential in an executive session. And there was not a good job of reproducing the gist of the debate and the questions in open session. So I'm hoping that that will be avoided this time. I think the secrecy last time contributed to the commission going off track and basically adopting a plan based upon an interpretation of the language of the state constitution, which was in error. And I think that those of us who were arguing on the other side could have been more effective in making our arguments earlier had those debates been carried out in a public fashion. Now, I don't expect there to be the same controversy, certainly around what constitutes the population base this time, because I think that was settled rather quickly and strongly by the state Supreme Court. But I'm hoping that we can avoid all such problems and embrace transparency throughout. Can I get clarification in particular on the role of the Deputy Attorney General as someone who is both advising the commissioners, but also providing information that's going to guide them that I think the public should often be aware of, unless it's something to do specifically with an exception like a personnel decision, for example. So anyways, I look forward to hearing things. And by the way, my comments that I submitted were written prior to receiving the packet. I thought the packet was very helpful in me understanding the issues that are in front of you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, that testimony. Again, I'm going to reiterate, my goal as chair is to make sure that we are as transparent as is appropriate. So the deputy attorney, I can't make a general blanket statement because I think it's an issue by issue case. It is not my goal to say every time the deputy attorney general makes a statement, we have to be in executive session. On the other hand, if she is advising us on something that belongs under the cloak of attorney-client privilege, we will do that appropriately as well. So, we will do our best to make sure that we separate the two roles effectively. Any other commissioners have anything they want to add to that? Okay, mahalo. Mr. Secretary, any other testifiers?
I do not, Chair, I do not see anybody with their hand raised at this time.
Okay, in that case, first, let me just say, I heard Sandy Ma's testimony about trying to keep executive sessions toward the end. So in future meetings, we will try and heed that advice and do our best to create an agenda that's more public friendly in terms of classifying it. What we tried to do today is put the executive session agenda items together so that we don't have to keep going in and out of a digital room to address them. So apologies that they are now, but basically for agenda items 4 and 5, we are anticipating going into executive session so that we don't have technical issues of running in and out. So I'm going to entertain a motion for each agenda item, which we'll take in turn, and then we'll reconvene into open session. So first, the first motion is for the commission to convene into executive session under HRS section 92.5 or 92-5A2 for agenda item 4 to consider the hire and evaluation of an employee where consideration of the matters for privacy are involved. And so we would convene into executive session to discuss that. And in item 5, we would consult with the commission's attorney on the questions and issues pertaining to the commission's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities. So given all of that, is there a motion from the commissioners to move into executive session?
I so move.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, we will unanimously now move into executive session and we will reconvene back into the public when we are done. Thank you. Aloha, everybody. We are back into open session. First, I'm just going to recognize Commissioner Nakota. She was actually present, but was having audio difficulties, so didn't respond to the roll call, but she actually is here. So just want to make sure everyone knows that. Mr. Secretary, you can record her as present. Okay, so thanks for your patience. For agenda item 4 that we discussed in executive session regarding the hiring of the commission's administrative staff, the commission decided in executive session to hire Mr. David John Rosenbrock to be the reapportionment program project manager, sorry. And as project manager, Mr. Rosenbrock will be given the authority to hire 3 positions: a GIS analyst, a secretary, an administrative assistant. Once he has a proposed slate of hires, he will submit those to the secretary, who will forward to the commission members. If a single commission member objects to any of the hires, we will have a special meeting to discuss the objection prior to ratifying the hire. If there are no objections, those hires will become permanent. So that was how we resolved item 4. For agenda item 5, after consulting with our attorney, with the Attorney General's office, regarding the delayed delivery of census data, we are going to ask the commissioners if they have a motion to decide what, if any, action they would like to take regarding the delay in census data. So commissioners, is there a motion?
Chair,
Yeah.
with regard to the first item, did you say within 7 days?
Yes,
Oh, you did. Okay,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
within 7 days. Correct.
I'll make the motion if nobody else wants to.
Okay,
Okay, I'm going to read it.
okay,
Okay, I move to request that the Attorney General petition the Hawaii Supreme Court for relief from the constitutional and statutory reapportionment deadlines that cannot be met due to the Census Bureau's delayed delivery of the 2020 redistricting data in the form of a writ directing the commission to A, issue public notice of the commission's proposed reapportionment plans by no later than January 8th, 2022, and B, file the final reapportionment plans with the chief election officer by no later than February 27th, 2022. And number 2, authorize the chairperson to sign a declaration and any other supporting documentation on the commission's behalf, which reflects the commission's concurrence with and support of this petition. That was a lot.
Second.
Thank you.
thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Commissioners, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, I think you can record a unanimous approval of that motion.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, commissioners. We're now going to move to agenda items 6 and 7. And I'm going to recommend that we take up agenda items 6 and 7 together because they're related. So agenda item 6 permits the commission to address the technical development of plans, like extraction of non-permanent residents, whether redrawing the lines should start with the existing districts, and then make changes to accommodate for the changes in the census data. Whether there should be single member or multi-member legislative districts, whether canoe districts for state legislative seats, which encompass more than one island, should be allowed, and basic housekeeping matters like that. We need to decide how the commission wants to conduct its business. So we can either decide that here as a full commission, or we can establish committees to investigate matters and make recommendations that the committee can then vote on or the commission can then vote on at a subsequent meeting. So in the past, this has included a committee that would discuss these rules. You know, a committee to develop rules and operation and conducts. So we can entertain whether we want to do that. And the 2011 Rules Committee recommendations were given to you in advance in the packet. There was also a technical committee that was established that were intended to prepare the plans necessary for drawing the lines with the GIS vendor and the commission staff. So if the commissioners are interested in being part of those committees, you know, please let me know and I can appoint you to those. However, because of sunshine law rules, there can only be 4 commissioners on the committee. And of course, I will not be on any of those committees. But because there can only be 4, I would ask that only 1 member from each appointing authority join any committee so that we will only have a maximum of 4. The committees will then be tasked with a particular scope to investigate and report back their findings, which we would discuss and ratify at a full commission meeting. So with that, I kind of like put it all together so that the commission members can discuss agenda items 6 and 7. We can either delay to a later meeting discussing the rules of conduct. We can establish and assign them to committees, you know, after establishing the committees, or we can discuss further, whatever your pleasure. So with that, I'll open it up to discussion.
I mean, personally, I feel like we need to have an understanding of what the committees should be. Does anybody have an understanding of what are the committees that we need?
Yeah, you know, I think maybe our 2 veterans who were present in 2011 can cast a little more light, but from my understanding and what happened then, there were 2 committees. One was one committee was to create the rules of conduct so that we could understand, you know, the best way we want to operate, and then to bring that to the full commission for approval. And the second was a technical committee that actually was involved with the GIS vendor and the project manager at actually creating the line.
I would ask if the secretary has any legacy data that we could review and look at with regard to the committees.
Legacy data as far as the the data from the 2011 reapportionment?
Yes.
As far as these 2
We can-
committees are concerned. If
We
those
can-
committees, like what were their findings?
Oh, what were their findings? So as far as the rules committee, the rules are actually in your packet. That was what their findings were, and it was voted on by the entire commission as to how they wanted to proceed with their conduct. The technical committee was responsible for proposing the actual lines for the House and Senate, which was then voted on by the commission at a subsequent meeting.
I guess the question is, do we need the rules of conduct committee? Does anyone believe that we need to hash that out?
It's worth having a discussion and a review, and if the recommendations are the same as they were the last time, I mean, we can just ratify that as a commission after the committee reviews it.
I agree.
I actually think I agree with you guys. I think we should it should still be there.
And then from the technical committee standpoint, I mean, that's a critical one in the whole process. It's very time consuming, and it's a lot of work to put together the draft maps. And so that would be just for those looking to serve on that one, just prepare for at least weekly meetings in between commission meetings to, you know, for multiple hours at a time, because it's a long, arduous process to kind of go through each district by district and island by island and actually draw the lines. So that one's a lot bigger of a commitment.
Dylan and I were both on the technical committee last time. But this time we are appointed by the same appointing authority. And so we would, in accord with the chair's recommendation, which I agree with, we would not both be on the technical committee this time, but I would suggest that one of us serve on the technical committee. And my recommendation would be that that's Dylan. I'm happy to serve on the rules committee to review what we did in the last reapportionment and participate in the discussion whether we want to change or simply ratify the same procedure.
Okay, since I was not on it last time, I would want to be on the committee that would actually draw the lines.
Chair, I think Commissioner Chen and I have spoken, and he will do the rules committee and I will do the technical committee.
I didn't know there was a choice, but I would love to do the technical one, but I guess, do I need to speak? Kevin, do we need to talk? I don't know. How do you guys all know you're supposed to talk before the meetings about things?
Dylan and I didn't talk. I just threw him out there. But he's on mute, so he couldn't say no quickly enough.
Thanks, Cal. Appreciate it.
What are you thinking, Kevin?
Yeah, you can go ahead and do the technical. I was thinking about that, but I can join the rules committee.
So it can only be one from each. I felt like
Yeah, that is correct. Actually, the most growth is in westward Oahu. Just saying. So I thought Kevin was from westward Oahu. Are you not, Kevin?
That was my thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's, to be perfectly honest, I think that's where the most growth would be, and that's where probably the most technical person should be. So I would actually think that, and like for me, I'm from Central Oahu, and so I know that we have Coral Ridge, and West Oahu has Ho'opili. So I think that the growth is on those two areas.
okay. Kev, yeah, I mean, it's if you want to take it, it's up to you.
I'm comfortable with that. We do have the most growth in the state.
And just
And I think
just to clarify, kind of process with that, and I'm sure things have gotten a lot better than they were 10 years ago, but there is a system that the contractor will provide that will give everybody access to the software to make adjustments and make proposals. And so no one would be excluded in terms of examining the data and then coming up with proposed plans. And the public will also have access to that also, or did 10 years ago. So I'm sure that software has improved significantly. And it won't be, you don't have to be on the technical committee to have input, I guess is the short story. Everybody
That's
will have
important.
an opportunity.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for the clarification, Dylan. And also, I would just say that ultimately, we're all going to have a responsibility to vote our conscience when we vote on the final lines. And I'm just fully expecting that everybody will have looked at it and thoroughly felt in their own hearts that they're doing the right thing. So that will mean that we'll all be paying attention to how the lines are being drawn. So with that, what I have first, I guess I'm just assuming by the fact we jumped to who was going to be on which committee, that are we agreeing that we're going to create these two committees? One would be a rules and conduct committee that will look at the 2011 rules and see if we're going to adopt them as is or make some adjustments to it. And the second would be a technical committee that would actually do the preliminary work to creating the work product with the GIS vendor. So are we first saying that we'd like to have those two committees? Is there a motion for that?
I'll make a motion for that.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, fantastic. All in favor, say aye.
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 Great. Any opposed? Okay, so great. So we have our two committees. And from what I'm reading is that, and this next part doesn't require a motion because I get to appoint who it is, but I'm hearing that Dylan, Charlotte, Diane, and Kevin will be on the technical committee, and that Cal, Robin, Grant, and Randy will be on the rules committee. Did I misspeak on anybody's place?
Sounds good.
Okay, terrific. Mr. Secretary, you have that recorded?
Yes, I do.
Fantastic. Okay, let's see. Well, I think we did a pretty efficient meeting, members. Thanks. I think we covered a lot of important ground and we're off to a good start. Even though our data might be late, but we have a plan for that. Excited to work with all of you. It was great to meet you, public. Thanks for joining us and for being interested in this very important process. I think you have my commitment and the commitment of the commissioners to be as transparent as appropriate in getting through this, so everyone has great confidence in the process that we have and therefore the work product at the end. So with that, mahalo. And if there's no further business that the commissioners would like to raise, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a
So
motion. to
moved.
adjourn.
When, do we have our next meeting? I'm sorry, do we have it listed anywhere in the minutes when our next meeting is?
Mr. Secretary, do you know when the next meeting is? At this
No,
point,
that
it
would be-
might be up. Oh, go ahead.
That would be subject to call of the chair. At this point, the data is not coming till mid-August, but it's subject to call. The next meeting would be subject to call of the chair.
Yeah, so in my mind, I think the things that we might have to meet on is, first of all, once we onboard the project manager and the project manager makes his hires, we'll decide if we need a meeting or not, depending on whether his hires are ratified. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the committees may want to meet ahead of time, so they can go ahead and do that. And then if I hear from the rules committee that they have a recommendation, we can call a meeting to approve that and make sure that we have that. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to get that much out of the technical committee until we actually have data, unless I'm mistaken.
Who's gonna call the rules committee? Who's gonna call those two meetings? Like, who's in charge of that?
So the rules committee would be able to meet under the permitted interactive group. So it would not be subject to sunshine, but the issue is you would have to present at the next meeting, but it can't be voted on or discussed till a subsequent meeting after that.
Scott, this is Randy. Can your staff assist us with establishing that meeting, or is that something that has to be done offline?
No, we can certainly assist you with having meeting. Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just talking out loud here or thinking out loud here, Scott. So what you just said, made me think that we're probably going to have a meeting at some point. Like, for example, one of the things I read in the rules committee was that you can elect vice chairs, right? That could stand instead. So we're going to need 2 meetings before we can get to the point where we can actually elect a vice chair, right?
Correct. So the way the law is set up is you'd have to present at one meeting and take action at the subsequent meeting after that.
Okay. So commissioners, what I'm going to try and do is collect issues that have to get presented so that we can vote on it at a subsequent meeting. And once I have a critical mass of kind of like things that might require us to present, I'll have Scott's staff reach out to everybody and find a good date where we can all meet. In the meantime, Scott, your staff maybe can help the 2 permitted interaction groups to find a time when they can just get together and decide how they want to operate in the meantime.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, terrific. Any other business? Okay, if not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I
So
make a
moved.
motion to adjourn.
Okay. In all of that, I think I heard a motion in a second. So any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Mahalo, everyone. See you soon.
Thanks,
Thanks, Chair.
Mark.
Thank you, Mark.